Today is September 18th, and this is The View with Catherine Chang. Today's topics are President Tsai meets with U.S. Undersecretary Keith Krach and Premier Su to report to legislature about U.S. pork. First, I want to talk about President Tsai meet with U.S. Undersecretary Keith Krach. Keith Krach started his first day in Taiwan, including meeting with President Tsai and had high-level economic dialogues with Taiwan's economic officials. However, Beijing also took action today. Early this morning, China fighters intruded 24 times in the northwest, western, and southwestern regions of Taiwan's airspace. The Chinese Defense Military spokesperson Zheng Guoqiang held a press conference and said that China is going to launch live ammunition drills in the Taiwan Strait. Here are some points. A. President Tsai met with the U.S. Undersecretary of State Keith Krach at 6:30 p.m. tonight and held a dinner. Just 38 days ago, President Tsai met with the U.S. Secretary of Health Azar. I think the close relationship between Taiwan and the United States reaching a peak since 1979, breaking ties. But some people are curious why President Tsai didn't meet Krach at the presidential office. Why at a residential office? According to my understanding, because Krach's schedule is very tight today. He sees all the time for economic dialogues. So President Tsai decided to meet him afterwards in the residential residence. And why choose to meet at a presidential residence? Well, I think it is kind of an American style that someone inviting you to their home is more intimate and more friendly. Except for U.S. Undersecretary Keith Krach. Well, this delegation also include Assistant Secretary of State for Democracy and Human Rights, Robert Destro, Assistant Secretary for Global Markets and Director General of the United States and Foreign Commercial Service, Lynn Love, and the former Assistant Secretary of Defense for Indo-Pacific Security Affairs, Randall Shriver, Xue Ruifu. They are all high-profile U.S. governmental officials. And B, another topic that aroused the discussion was why did economic dialogue become a pre-dialogue? According to reliable sources, one of the reasons is that USTR is concerned that if the dialogue holds too rushly, it may break the principle of USTR. The second reason is that the opposition party, which I think is KMT, keeps saying that the U.S. pork was poisonous and they will hold a referendum to boycott it. The USTR therefore requires not to reach an economic and trade consensus with Taiwan too quickly. However, these speculations is not confirmed. But according to today's schedule, Krach had a 3-hour talk in the morning and a lunch meeting with Taiwanese businessmen and attend the dialogue in the afternoon. Well, I think there will be a huge progress for the U.S.-Taiwan economic development. C. I want to discuss the BTA and the memorial for former President Lee Teng-hui. For the people of Taiwan, they expected that Krach's visit means that BTA is going to be achieved. However, this idea might be a little bit too optimistic, but it's nothing wrong for Taiwanese people to expect that. However, the U.S. seems to have set the tone that the main purpose of Krach's visit to Taiwan is to attend the memorial commemoration of former President Lee Teng-hui. What I want to say is that many things can be done but cannot be said, especially when it comes to diplomacy. Regardless of whether Krach's purpose of visiting Taiwan is to attend the memorial of the former President Lee Teng-hui or to attend the economic and trade dialogue, I think the two things cannot be separated and there's no need to separate. Inevitably, this high-level dialogue of Keith Krach and the Vice Premier Shen Rongjin has made the best opening for Taiwan and the U.S. BTA. Second issue I want to talk about, Premier Su to report to legislature about U.S. pork. Premier Su Chang made a report in the Legislative Yuan today about lifting the ban of the U.S. pork. The KMT legislators planned to block him off, but eventually failed. Therefore, I think the controversy of the U.S. pork will end after all. The KMT wouldn't succeed even if they raise a referendum, because Taiwanese people are smart and rational. They would think that Taiwan can, and has already lifted the ban on U.S. beef with retobamine 8 years ago. Why can't we lift the ban of U.S. pork with retobamine today? Here are the top stories. Today we have 0 confirmed cases. First, I want to talk about China's reaction toward Keith Krach's visit to Taiwan. The New York Times published an article with the title, U.S. sent Undersecretary Keith Krach to express its support to Taiwan. And it said that U.S. Undersecretary Keith Krach arrived in Taiwan. It's Trump's administration's latest move to bolster its support of Taiwan in defiance of threats from Beijing. However, China strongly rebutted the U.S.-China. We're talking about the China Foreign Minister spokesperson Wang Wenbin said the U.S. insisting on undersecretaries of Keith Krach and visiting Taiwan is kind of severely violates the One China principle and the Three China-U.S. communicates. China will make necessary reaction in light of the development of the situation. Well, actually, China really took their actions. Chinese fighters intruded Taiwan's airspace again today, and in almost all the western coast of Taiwan. You can see here, this is the map, and we will explain it later. And Taiwan Air Force broadcasted, 24 times as southwestern airspace, western airspace, northern airspace, and northwest airspace. The broadcast said that close to Taiwan airspace, instead of using the usual terms airspace or ADIZ, which is quite unusual. And these are the map released by the Taiwan Ministry of National Defense. You can see from this map, well, the first one is the trajectories of the Chinese fighters. This is, how they fly. It's like a lot of, flying there. And also on this map, you can see the Chinese fighters. Over here, this is the Taiwan Strait Central Line. And over here, you can see that these are the trajectory of the Chinese fighter. They're kind of crossing the central line. And also, we can see this is the Dongsha Island. You can see Chinese fighters intruding the southwestern corner of Taiwan's ADIZ. Well, there are a total of 18 Chinese fighters, including Xi'an H-6 bombers, J-10 fighters, J-11 fighters, and J-16 fighters. To counterback, Taiwan has sent F-16 to drive them away for at least 17 times. Also, China announced to begin military drills from September 18th. The Chinese Defense Ministry spokesperson Zheng Guoqiang announced at a press conference, and he said that the military drills are necessary actions aimed at the current situation in the Taiwan Strait. Recently, the U.S. and DPP authorities have stepped up their collusions, frequently creating disturbances. In response to China's aggressive action toward Taiwan, U.S. officials fought back by calling China lawless bully. U.S. Assistant Secretary of East Asia and Pacific Affairs David Stilwell said that in the past months, what China did in the South China Sea and Taiwan are not the action of a responsible global actor, but a lawless bully. On the other hand, the U.S. senators took action to support Taiwan. Well, there are several of them. And first, I want to talk about U.S. Senator Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz asked to abolish guidelines on the relationship with Taiwan. Ted Cruz said in a full committee hearing conference that, I believe that we are doing it definitely in an alignment with U.S. interests as well. It's to support Taiwan and to make sure that they have the ability to resist and to kind of resist the coercion by the Chinese. And what Cruz is talking about is that in 2015, there was a flag-raising ceremony at Taiwan's Twin Oaks, and it angered China. At that time, Obama signed the guidelines of the relationship with Taiwan bill to please Beijing. Of course, this is the time to abolish it. Besides that, U.S. Representative Tiffany introduced a bill to resume normal ties with Taiwan. And he tweeted that, last night, I introduced legislation calling for an end to the outdated One China policy and closer ties with our allies in Taiwan. America doesn't need a permission slip from Communist China to talk to our democratic friends and partners. It's time for a change. Also, U.S. Representative Ted Yoho introduced Taiwan's Invasion Prevention Act, 防止台湾遭侵略法案. He said that the United States must act immediately to kind of establish a clear red line over Taiwan. The U.S. is obligated to stand strong with Taiwan and encourage a return to peaceful relations between Taiwan and China. Well, we're talking about that. You can see that the Taiwan Invasion Prevention Act. What are the items here? I wanted to tell you this is very important to Taiwan. And the first one is establish a kind of a limit authorization for the president to use military force for a specific purpose of protecting Taiwan against armed attack. And second is require China renounce the use of threat of military force in its relationship with Taiwan. And third, establish a series of security dialogue and combined military exercise between the U.S. and Taiwan. And fourth, advise Taiwan to enhance its own defense, including the acquisition of defense weapons and engage with the U.S. cyber defense. And also urge the U.S. Trade Representative to enter into negotiation with the Taiwan on BTA. That is very important. And encourages the U.S. President or Secretary of State to visit and meet with Taiwan President. And the final one, welcome President of Taiwan to address a joint meeting of Congress. So we're talking about that. And also in the end, I want to talk about, according to CNN, Trump administration kind of readies major arms sale to Taiwan. And it said that Trump administration will soon formally approve a large sale of MQ-9B Reaper drones. And the value of the drones and associated equipment roughly will about $600 million US dollars. But I wanted to add up to that. You know, about this drone, we were talking about selling to Taiwan yesterday. The news said that it was the MQ-9 Sea Guardian, right? But today CNN said that it should be the MQ-9B Reader. But no matter which one it is, we will see what happens. Maybe next week we will have a clear message on that. That will be the view for today. This is Catherine Chang. I hope you have a nice night. And I'll see you next Monday. Bye.